Hey, I've been talking some about how the games went last week and some things that needed to be fixed. And I thought I'd take it from a little different slant and talk about some of the good things I saw last week, what I thought CrossFit got right, and why it's a sign of things to come and a really positive sign of things to come. Some of these may surprise you. I'll lead it by saying none of this is an endorsement of anything in particular, just more an opinion on how I saw the events unfold and how I thought the crowd reacted to it and what it means for us in the future. So, the first big one, and this will caught me by surprise live and in person, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise, is that Greg Glassman was in attendance. I know people feel a lot of different ways about Greg. He's always been a polarizing figure within CrossFit, even when he owned it. I'm old enough to remember when regionals got canceled and when the media team got fired, when he brought in that ugly Archie Bunker couch into HQ and started doing the videos with the water jugs and how much controversy that created at the time. And, my best recollection of that period is that many people disagreed with a lot of those decisions and the direction Greg was taking the company from time to time. But the reason why I thought it was very cool and important that CrossFit allowed him to come in and speak to affiliate owners and be part of the event was that no one ever questioned Greg's commitment to affiliates or fighting chronic disease. And I think that's where getting him back involved somewhat, or at least allowing him to involve himself, helps us. Does he have a complicated past? Absolutely. And, I'm not really here to debate that today. I think if I had to guess, and, this is just simply my opinion, he's still loved by far more people than he isn't. And I think the more we focus on reconciliation, forgiveness, and grace, the more we're going to all be healthier and happier. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to condone any previous actions or even feel some sort of way about it, to know that if we can all find ways to meet in common ground around the things we love the most, which typically happens in the affiliates where people getting healthier and happier, the better it's going to be. I'm also going to full disclose here. Greg was personally great to me when I first started. And so I do have a little bit of ownership in that when I was first getting started into the space, Greg reached out to me when he had no reason or even need to. There was certainly no reason to help me in any capacity. And he was great to me in that regard. And I suspect there's thousands of untold stories like that we all haven't heard. And so I think that giving the grace to realize that's probably happening out there and letting people have that access, I think was important. So I think this was a good move by the CrossFit team and Don Fall to allow that to happen. The other thing I thought was a really good move by Don and the CrossFit team was giving exclusive access to certain content creators to do behind the scenes. So specifically the Buttery Bros, Craig Ritchie's team, and the Savant podcast all had exclusive, kind of behind the scenes access to interview athletes and to tell the stories of what's going on within CrossFit. I know it would probably surprise some of you guys to hear me say I think it's great that Savant had extra coverage considering, kind of the beef we've had going back and forth from time to time. But if you know me well, you shouldn't be surprised by that. I think we all want CrossFit to grow and to thrive. And I think in order to do that, you need the best and brightest telling the stories of CrossFit. And I don't think anybody can argue that those three groups, Buttery Bros, Craig, and Savant, are passionate about affiliates, are passionate about the sport, and they're all three terrific storytellers. So I think allowing them to capture content for use on their own channels is a really great move by CrossFit and allows more people to see what's going on. I think there was probably a little worry within the community of what would it be edgy, would it not be edgy? I know I'd heard Dave talk about that some on his update show. I was more worried the Buttery Bros going to wear their jorts. I mean, that was really it for me. I had no concern that Savant or anybody else for that matter would be backstage raising hell. This is our Super Bowl event, and I knew everybody would be well behaved. And it clearly came off that way. So I'm excited to see what this footage looks like as it gets out on each of the channels and how it helps our brand, because I think it will. The third thing I thought CrossFit got really well was Don Fall's presence. It's not often in any business you see a CEO just walking around. And honestly, Don's kind of got a low profile. I think most people, maybe don't even know what he looks like. And so I thought it was really interesting just seeing him walking around the venue. As a matter of fact, I ran into him at one point where he was just standing there watching a TV, watching the competition go down. And there's all these people standing around him and nobody knew who he was, which I thought was really kind of humorous. But his accessibility was really impressive. He ran the community 5K. He went out and took a handstand class and was coached in handstand walking. He got some tips by Hinshaw in running, which is really brave because I'm not sure I'd let Hinshaw coach me. That dude's intense. I ran into him at a charity cocktail party, and I'm sure he did 100 other things. And so kudos to him for just being out front and leading by example and talking to people and gathering feedback and understanding what the community wants and needs. I think that's a very, very important trait we needed in a leader. And so that was really good to see. The fourth thing I thought that they did really well was bringing Dave back. And that shouldn't be a surprise for anyone. And obviously it happened several weeks before the games, but I think his presence was really, really deeply felt. The games, events ran on time. They were smooth. By and large, the judging was really tight. Programming was solid. And I think in the end, everyone feels really good about the outcome. Obviously, we all have our favorites. And there was the drama with the injury of Roman, which was heartbreaking. But all in all, I think we feel really good about how the games went, that they were fair and that everyone had an equal shot at winning. And it came off really well. And bluntly, that's an amazing accomplishment considering how much time the games team had to gel with Dave. I mean, it shouldn't go without saying that Dave wasn't working directly with them, even though they all knew him, I'm sure. Putting someone different in charge at that late a stage can really throw a team for a loop in any business. And I thought they executed on it really, really well. And so that was great. The fifth one was the community events. There were a lot of buzz, particularly around that 5K. Tons of people ran it. You probably would have had more CrossFitters if they'd known it was less than 5K, but I think it was a great idea. And I hope they carry it over to future events. I've said for years that I wanted to see more community involvement, kind of like if you've ever been to a minor league baseball game and they're throwing shirts in the stands and they bring people out for the Dizzy Bat Race. I saw a lot of that this time. Not only did we have the 5K, but in the Coliseum, for instance, I think it was Go Ruck was dropping parachutes from the rafters with prizes on them and throwing t-shirts in the stands. And it was really fun moments of getting the crowd involved that I think brings a lot of buzz to these events. So I thought that was great. And then the last one was the focus on the affiliate. As I look back on the week, I kind of initially thought the focus on the affiliate wasn't what I expected it to be, or maybe was less. But now that I've had a little more time to digest it, I think when you piece it all together, it made a really powerful statement. There are these videos playing in the Coliseum and outside, actually, one from CrossFit Mentality showing this athlete, Henry, who had come to Scott Panchik's gym and he could barely squat. He had terrible knee problems and how they've worked through that and how it's really changed Henry's health and well-being. And then a second video called Small Town Strong, which is from a gym here down in Portsmouth, Ohio, a friend of mine, Dale King's gym, where they're fighting a real problem with drugs and getting people out of that lifestyle, and really powerful statements. There were great health seminars that ran throughout the week. You had the CrossFit booth was really big where they're teaching people different movements and answering questions. And then finally, they made some CrossFit merchandise, which was nice to see. I bitched about that forever, that I can't believe we don't have shirts that just simply say CrossFit. And so it was really cool to see a merch booth. And I think when you combine all of that, it just makes a really powerful statement that the affiliate's important. And that's where the heart of this entire organization is. And so I really like that. So all in all, I thought, again, it was a great week. And I think our brightest days are ahead of us.